on the Northwest side. And truthfully, I don't know if it's gotten any better, but back in the time when I was there, it was not the best. And I still think they struggle with the test score situation. I'm not sure 100% though. I'm gonna be honest, no. And I think that that's lacking in our curriculums for young people. Like we don't talk to them um about finance enough. I feel like those are courses that should definitely be offered in schools. At least they weren't offered in mine. I don't know if they are in other places, but they definitely didn't. I don't think they talk enough about smart investing and on both realms, smart investing of your money and of your time. Which I think Coding Temple offered the perfect solution for in my situation for sure. Time, yeah, this is a piece of the puzzle that is difficult. And I'm not gonna lie, I had a lot of support from my family, not financially, but just, well, I guess it is financial because they let me move back in. My parents let me move back in with them. And I'll tell you, uh, I will get personal here because I think this part of the story is also very important, and I don't tell it a lot because I've tried to erase it from my narrative, but the fact is it is part of my narrative. So I was living in an apartment building um in Oak Park, and I was doing pretty well when I was working at the insurance company. I was doing pretty well, and I was proud of myself. And I was living with my partner at the time, who then I became a subject of domestic violence. And that kind of propelled me to just, leave the situation and pretty much start my life from scratch. So that happened I don't even remember, in a January, and by April I was in boot camp. So January, I packed all my things, I moved out, I moved back in with my parents. And I was just like pretty much at rock bottom, which many a times is kind of a good place to be because you got nothing to lose at that point, and that's where I was at. So I quit. I found out about the boot camp and I was like, all right, I'm gonna do this. I signed up for April, quit my job, put all my things into storage, moved into my parents' basement, and really just threw myself into the program full time because I realized, like, if I'm going to do this, I need to do it, and it needs my undivided attention, especially because it's 100% new to me. Like I didn't know even the terminology when I started at Coding Temple. I didn't even know what SQL was. Everything was very abstract in my mind, but I know I needed those skills. I didn't know anything about them. So I knew for me personally that I needed to do the full-time program. And I have no regrets about doing that. I share that story because I want also I mentor a lot of women to transition to tech, because it's important to me that women find their financial independence, because if I hadn't had that, then I don't know where I would be in my life right now. And so stressing the tech careers on women specifically is something that I'm very, very passionate about for that reason. Good question, because I did at that point in time, I was thinking about my plan, what I would do, right? The job I was working at, I was working a crazy amount of hours. So there was no way I would be able to balance it too. I was working like 60 hours a week sometimes because it's a startup environment and everybody is just scrambling around wearing a lot of hats. And I was like, I know I need to let go of some responsibilities. I honestly was highly considering getting a job at Costco, getting a job at Target, just something. I was like, I just need some kind of income. Doesn't need to be fancy. Maybe I need to, um, maybe I need to relocate and to like cut the rent part out a little bit. Just I was thinking like, I don't want to move back in with my parents, like, but I can find a cheaper apartment and just work a job that doesn't really need a lot from me, but that's just paying the bills and just getting me by while I pursue this, that I'm actually passionate about, because I recognize that I couldn't invest my brain on a 60-hour a week job plus a coding boot camp. Maybe I could just get something. And honestly, Costco doesn't pay bad for what it is. And I was like, that's definitely a feasible option to do that. So I was willing to take a pay cut, a temporary pay cut and a temporary um housing, what's the word I'm trying to say? Just something cheaper cost of living wise. And I was ready to make peanut butter sandwiches for lunch, and I had the whole plan in my mind about like, if my family doesn't support this, how am I going to accomplish this? Luckily, they did they didn't understand, but they were supportive. Um, but that kind of would have been my trajectory, and that's the advice I've given some mentees that who have done that, and they ended up doing well. You just, if you sell it as like it's just a short window of your time that you'll have to do this. You won't be able to go out on the weekends. You won't be able to travel this year. But it's just, a year of your life, you'll be fine. And I think that is the main cause of anxiety for all of us coding boot camp students. Like, from the day you start, you're like, did I make the right decision? Like, oh my God, what am I going to do afterwards? Like, when it's done, what do you like? That's the part I think is harder. Honestly, the coding boot camp is challenging, but what comes next is also, and you're mentally like, you're like, oh my God, what have I done? At least that's how I felt. But actually, I it was so I treated my job hunt as a 9 to 5 job, to be honest with you. And I created a strategy for each day of applying, which I think applies to anyone in any industry looking for any job. Is just, I realized, you know what, this is a numbers game. The more I put out, the more I'll receive. And it's just how math works pretty much. And I told myself that pretty early on into the boot camp. I'm like, at the end of this, the only way I'm going to get something is to mass apply, just apply, apply, apply. And so I had a strategy for that. I signed up for every job board under the sun. And my advice here is to create a separate email for that, because I used my email. And to this day, I'm just overwhelmed with things coming in my inbox. So make a new email, then create those all profiles on all the job boards, get your resume together, which Coding Temple was great with helping me with my resume and interview preps. And that was back when they had less resources than they have now. So I'm talking to you about a time where, like, the resources they have now are exponentially better. But yeah, so it was just a mass applying. So I utilized ZipRecruiter's one-click apply uh option, where basically you put your resume up on ZipRecruiter and then they have all these job posts with one-click applies. I sent 50 every Monday before 10 a.m. So Mondays I would send 50 applications before 10 a.m., realizing that that's the way I would be at the top of the emails, right? Because Monday mornings, when everybody's coming refreshed from the weekend, all the recruiters are opening their inboxes, and I wanted to be at the top there. So that's also a reason why I did not apply Friday, Saturdays, or Sundays, because the opposite effect of that on the Monday is that you're going to be all the way at the bottom. And I also recognize that sometimes it's not about you lacking the skills or you're not the right person. It's just that they found what they needed right here and you were down here. And so recognizing that, I did that for 2 weeks, and I had phone calls after phone calls after phone calls. But like on week 3, I landed the interview of a job I really, really wanted, which ended up being at Wavico Data Solutions. So this is 3 weeks out of boot camp with that strategy.